Welcome to the Back to Health podcast, where we share inspirational stories of hope to help you reclaim your health. If you're suffering from a chronic condition and have been given little to no hope, if you've been told that there's nothing wrong with you, but you know there definitely is something wrong, or if you're just trying to be preventative and want to know how to reclaim your health, then this podcast is for you. I can't wait to share today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Back to Health podcast. Now, if you're excited to achieve your ideal body with healthy habits that last forever, then today's guest is your new fitness bestie. As an ACSM certified exercise physiologist, Phung Tran has helped young women of color to implement science-backed methods to lose weight with personalized exercise routines and the joy of eating. Her fitness strategy has prompted her clients to be more health conscious while continuing to enjoy life as it should be. When she's not busy breaking a sweat, you can find Phung cuddling with her black cat on the bed and crocheting her latest amigurumi project. Welcome to the show. So hi Phung, it's so great to have you on the show today, and I'm so excited to dive into all the juicy topics that you have for us. So fitness and fitness for women of color in particular. I'm really interested to hear sort of like how that's different. But I think it'll be really nice if we start at the beginning of your story, why you got interested in fitness and why this became so important to you in the first place.
And so you know, the beginning story is basically, when I was immigrating from Vietnam to the US, and basically it's middle school versus high school. So middle school, I was very active. I was working out a lot, like 3 times a week, and also I had a little bike, like 'cause, we're in that country and then you can bike around. I know you have that sort of luxury, but once you go to the US, that's not possible. Uh, and so obviously, it was a lot of hard work. Like literally, I had to stop working out. I don't have my bike anymore. And so, but the thing is, when I was working, I was eating a lot. Doesn't matter. Like you can eat whatever you want, and then you still be fine. But now, since I'm still young, but I didn't, wasn't active as much. So obviously I ballooned up, and in high school, so a lot of body image issue. Like I was trying to look for a way, to slim my belly or whatnot. And so when it's comes time to college, I was like, maybe I should do this thing called exercise science, and basically we learn everything there is about exercise and how you do it, how it affects your body, like to the microscopic level, to like your mind, whatever. And so I started to make friends, and then start losing weight, start to get better. And so now with the pandemics happening, I was like, wow, I should be talking to people online about this stuff, because you see a lot of stuff popping up about, fast weight loss, like do this and do that. And first of all, they're not even right. And second of all, they minimize a lot of our experience as women of color. Like, my biggest problem when I was looking for help was like, you have to quit eating rice. And
Yep.
I'm like, that is not possible. I don't care who you are, but I don't give a crap about that. And so I'm like, well, there's so many more ways to do it. And if you're somebody who's propagating that, that things, a lot of other girls who are women of color, they're gonna be like, wow, now I can't even look good anymore. Like, that makes everyone feel bad. So that's basically my whole story.
Yeah, and I guess there's a wider issue there because, in my culture, we eat a lot of rice as well. And so it's not just about you can't eat foods that are basically part and parcel of your culture and the way you've been brought up, but it's also that you then sort of don't belong when you're at family gatherings or you're going to people's houses and you're trying to explain to them, I don't eat rice. It's such an awkward conversation. They're like, what do you mean you don't eat rice? I mean, that's our staple food. So what do you eat if you don't eat rice? And then they try and offer you something else, which might be like a wheat-based food or something. Like, no, I don't eat wheat either. So like, so what do you eat? And it's such a hard, well,
Mhm.
not hard, but it's one of those really awkward conversations where you start becoming that really fussy person that is like, I'm not eating this and I'm
Right.
not eating this and I'm not eating this, but also
Yeah.
everyone else is eating that food and you're basically a little bit on the outside if you're trying not to eat that. Now, like, luckily I have a really supportive group of friends and family, and also when I first gave up rice, it was during lockdown, so it wasn't
Mhm.
that hard because it was just in my own home. But then when we've, since then, when we've met up with people and it's been something like there's rice, and it's
Mhm.
been that conversation of having to explain, I don't I don't eat rice anymore, and that's quite it's a tough conversation to have with people of an
Mhm.
older generation than us, because
Mhm.
it's such a staple in our cultures. And you're right. I never thought about how that advice, for women of color, can actually be quite difficult. And just when you touch there on fitness, and your fitness had changed obviously between moving from Vietnam to the US. But did anything change in the way you were eating as well, or were you always eating sort of the same?
So yeah, my diet would change too. So obviously in Vietnam, it was more, fresh food. Like we're talking about, meat that was slaughtered, like the pig would be slaughtered like in the
Right
morning, and
there.
then I would eat it, like a couple hours later I would eat it. But everything moves very fast. So like the meat was noticeably much fresher than whatever I can get here in the US. And also here I just gotta eat so much cheese. Like so much cheese and sugar around. It is super hard to not eat those. Like is part of it is the built-in environment to what you have around you and what's available. And if what's available around you is a lot of processed food, then it did affect my health a lot. And that's something I needed to learn to like curb back, like not fall into like the easiest choice, but actually like go the extra step.
Yeah, and that's a really good point you mentioned. Let's just dive into that a little bit. We walk into a shop, like a supermarket or a grocery store, and, outside it says food. And you walk in expecting that anything, things that you can. I grew up with this sort of idea. And when I had to like change that mindset, it was so difficult, because you walk into a shop expecting that what is sold is something that you can eat. And actually, so many of those things you should not be eating, not just because it's not good for you or because it's got the sugar, but actually they are anti-nutrient, and they're not even food. Like, they're not even real food. It's just lots of processed, packaged, hydrogenated, fat covered stuff, shaped to
Yeah.
look like, shaped and, scented to smell good, but
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah.
actually food. And so when I first started looking at my diet and first started working on, like, what am I actually putting into my body that's affecting me and making me feel like this? I suffered from um, basically a form of chronic fatigue. Like, I could never get it diagnosed officially because my blood tests were always okay. So my body was doing a good job at
Ah.
keeping my homeostasis, but I was suffering. I was getting the migraines. I was feeling so
Mhm.
sluggish. I was feeling really tired. And I was just looking at, what am I actually putting into my body? Because what I'm fueling myself with is what my body's using to give me energy. And then I started looking at, when you start looking at closely, like, I'm buying these from a shop that sells food, except it's not food. And then when I actually looked at how many things in the shop can I start eating, when I started going like paleo, which means just whole foods, just things that would be
Mhm.
grown naturally that you could normally eat raw. If you can cook them if you want to, but you would be able to eat them raw if you just found them in
Mhm.
in nature. And when I started looking at that, it's like there was literally about 2 aisles in the shop where I can
Oh,
actually buy stuff from, and all the
really?
other aisles, like all the other 40 aisles, contained non-food. Like, it's not food. So really
Oh.
interesting point you make there about the temptation and how you're just surrounded more by these foods, and so it's really hard to
Mhm.
avoid. So I'm really interested, like, do you still eat any of those foods? Like, do you still have cheese? Do you still have processed food, or are you like sort of completely clean in terms of eating now?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm completely clean because that's not a whole lot of people would be able to afford
Yes.
going completely something. And then there's also the fact that there my body sort of adapt to the new normal. So I would still eat cheese, but it's probably once a week instead of, like a whole time, like just 3 or 4 times a week. And then usually I'll be the one making the food myself. And I just, personally, I don't like any diet that has a name on it. Like, it's just so random. And I feel like some of that has to do with, it's so restrictive on the person. Like, one is it's
Yeah.
going to be very expensive for you to do it. And two is hard to keep up. And so I feel like, a couple of people they can do it, but then the majority of them, I feel like they're, pushing you toward failure so that you then feel bad about yourself.
And so what should we do? Like, how do we reclaim our health? How do we reclaim our fitness? How do we
Hmm.
eat within our budgets but still be able to keep our bodies healthy? What's your advice?
I would say, start with, just evaluating what you're used to be eating. So like, I have a client, she's of African descent, so we don't eat the same food. But her things is having like a can of ginger ale every night. And
Yep.
then one or two drinks, obviously alcohol, on the weekends. And she was like, well, yeah, that's not right. I'm drinking a lot of this. And for me, instead of having like going cold turkey and then, making yourself feel bad, like just, split that in half. You're living with somebody else. Share that can with somebody else when you drink it, so that, you still have the joy of drinking the ginger ale stuff, which isn't that good, but you're also sharing it. You're just drinking half of that stuff, and then over time you can feel the change, and then you can drink less. So I would say, you, probably you would know what's going wrong with your diet, and you can like just reducing it a bit instead of going cold turkey. Like just maybe I'm eating too much of rice. I put rice everywhere, so probably just reducing it a bit. Eating too much Oreos instead of a whole pack. I would eat like two cookies a day, sort of thing. So you just start with slowly doing that, and eventually your body will be able to find its place. Like what is the right place for me to be eating and feeling good about myself.
And so, what would you say you do when you mentioned Oreos? So let's take that as an example. They're quite
Mhm,
addictive, and for some people, it's like if they have one, they
mhm,
can't actually stop themselves from.
mhm,
They don't have the self control to maybe just have to. And I would not say it's their fault at all, because those foods have
mhm,
things in them to make them addictive. If we take Pringles for example, they're literally telling you in their slogan, once you
mhm,
pop, you can't stop, because they've put stuff in there to make sure that you can't
mhm.
stop, and you've got to finish the whole can of them. So what would you say? What's your advice for people who are struggling, where if they do open that packet of Oreos, they've got to finish the whole thing because it is addictive, and they've sort of got into that pattern, or they're struggling with the craving in particular? What can we do then?
I would say, prep, like just dividing the things up. So with my friends, she got one can. So there's that limit of her finishing it up, dividing it in half. But if it's bigger things, I would say put it into, smaller packages. Just divide it up, because those sort of thing, they can stay out of the air for a little longer. So even if they're not, you can taste it's bad after like a whole day out. But you can put it in like a Ziploc bag, just dividing things up, or, in a Tupperware. And then just, because you already have the portions, everything's out. So when the cravings come, you can go and take one portion and go and eat it. And then you're like, okay, now I did it. And then you can go back, because you're going to introduce time in between, the portions, even if you're ended up
Yep.
still eating the whole thing. But now you're spacing it out throughout the day, and you have that conscious thought of, oh, I need to stand up, go find another package of this, just two Oreos, and then go back and eat.
That is so interesting, because this a health program that I did last year. It's called WildFit, and I'll put the link down below for anyone who might be interested in checking it out. But basically, we talk about nuts, and how in the wild, nuts are something which are really hard to open, or even get in the first place. Like the energy that goes into, as a hunter gatherer, going and finding those nuts, going to climb up to get them, and then sitting there and breaking them open before you can get the nut out. You expend so much energy before you even eat them, and you will only get about a handful of nuts after all the effort that goes into actually getting them. And so even after that, you have definitely expended more energy than what you're eating in the handful of nuts. But now in modern times, you can just go to the supermarket, you can buy a whole bag of peanuts, a whole bag of cashews, a whole bag of pistachios, and you can easily sit there and just eat the whole bag without
Mm,
having expended not that much energy to get to the shop and back,
yeah.
in terms of eating them. And people sometimes have nuts as a healthier snack option, but it's still, the portion size matters, because you still can't eat a whole bag of nuts, because that's still it's still got a lot of, even if they're good fats, but too much of anything good is still not, it's still
Yeah,
bad
it's
for
still
you.
bad.
um,
Yeah.
And so you've got to, you've got to really work on your portions and limiting yourself. And so even with things like nuts or things you find healthier, it's still, I think your advice there is really good in terms of portioning them, so that you know that the first portion that you get, you have it in a Tupperware or a little bag or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And if you want more, you've got to actually get up, put the energy into it, go and get that thing. We have this thing where you do like 5 star jumps, or 5 push-ups before you can go and have
Yeah.
another portion of something, which you need to expend the energy first before you
Mhm.
actually go and have it. So I think that's also another tip I'd add into the mix. Give yourself a rule, like, if you've had 3 Oreos and you want to have another 2 or 3, then make yourself, I mean, I wouldn't say have Oreos at all, but if you're gonna have them, then
Yeah.
do a certain number, give yourself a rule, like, I need to walk up and down the steps 4 times before I can go and have them, or and depending on the type of food or how much it's going to affect your body, you can give yourself different rules to make yourself expend that
Mhm.
energy beforehand, so that you earn it as you almost go and
Right.
hunt, yeah, go and get it as a reward.
You're just
uh,
making it harder, to like eat those.
yeah,
Like just that's when the time block, like when your mind like because when you eating, your cravings, you don't think. Your
yeah,
mind just sort of like
it's
the
just
prefrontal
autopilot.
just yeah. So if you have to make these extra stuff like moving around or even just standing up, like your mind be like, oh, what the heck? Why am I
And
doing
sometimes, even just knowing that you've got to do that before you can go and eat that thing, it makes you not want to be bothered to eat that thing, because you're like, oh, that's too much effort. Like, I can't be bothered. And if you were in the wild, like, you wouldn't just be able to like get that bag. You'd have to go find it. So if you give yourself the same rules, then I think it works, because like I might finish my like little handful of pistachios or almond nuts, and I'm like, oh, I need to go do 5 star jumps, and then I need to go all the way to the kitchen, and then I need to go like, oh no, I just
Yeah,
can't be bothered. I'm
that's
just
too
not.
much
I'm
work.
just not I'm just not going to eat them. And so it just really helps you manage your
Mhm.
your portion sizes.
Mhm.
So that's really interesting on the nutrition side. And let's come, you mentioned exercise and fitness, and coming to you were studying sort of the thing. When I was first struggling with all my health issues, one of the things I was really struggling with was this unexplained weight gain. I was doing everything I could possibly think of. I was eating as clean as possible. I was doing exercise. Sometimes I was doing HIIT exercises, then I was doing slower exercises, then I was just doing walks. I tried all sorts of things and trying to figure out what suited my body best. But in the beginning, the body would still just keep piling on the weight. And then I came to understand that actually, when you do really intensive exercise, and especially for women, because women's bodies are not designed to be doing strenuous exercises, we're
Really?
not the hunters, it's the men that are the
I
hunters.
don't
And
I don't
so,
yeah, I would have to disagree on that point because there are records of women hunters. Like not a whole lot, but
yeah,
there's some. So we do have that genes. It's just at the beginning of everything, you're gonna find it very hard to adapt, and then the body would try to adapt to that new level always, like because homeostasis. So if you work
yeah,
out more, your body just immediately kick into like we have to eat more, and so that's one of the biggest problem with people who wants to lose weight, especially at the beginning. Is like you would over reward yourself, like thinking that you run 2 miles that you deserve a whole can of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
it.
But I think for me, what the issue was actually that was putting stress on my body. So it was actually adding to the stress, which meant my body was
Mm,
then holding on to more weight because of the stress
oh,
response, because it thought I was in danger. Because when you're doing that strenuous exercise, and if you're not breathing properly, or you're not actually, like, you're doing it in a way that is stressful to you, your body
mhm,
feels like you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger and you're in
mhm,
danger. And so when you're doing that strenuous exercise, it's actually telling my body I'm not safe, and I'm now going to hold on to extra weight or anything I've eaten, because I might need that in case I'm going to have to hide for a few days away from the
yeah,
tiger, or I'm not going to come in contact with food for a while.
mhm,
And so actually, the exercise was working against my body
right,
rather than helping me. And I know a lot of people, when they're thinking about I need to lose weight or I need to get fit, their first port of call is exercise. They'll go straight for the
mhm,
exercise. Like, they don't necessarily look at
right,
the diet. They're like, well, if I do the exercise, then I can burn off what I'm eating and I can carry on eating the way I'm eating.
right.
So I'd really like to know from your point of view, like, fitness wise and exercise wise, especially for women and women of color,
Mhm.
what is it that you would suggest?
So one of the first things when I see with exercise, especially the exercise plans you see online, is that they overextend yourself. Like, because when you do exercise, you're putting like the whole point is to put some stress on yourself, like to stimulate what we did before, but you don't. overstimulated to the point where you're in danger. You're just stimulating like to get rid of the stress hormones. Like you're working out, you're
Yeah.
happy. So one of the thing, when you see me, like, my whole thing is to be active is easy. It's like you're just having fun with the exercise that you're doing. And so one of the first thing is you need to put out all the exercise, that random exercise plan people see online, because I've read this one quote and I don't remember the person, but he says any idiots can make another idiot sweat.
I love that. We'll have to look up who said that, and
Yeah. So
we'll quote them.
literally, yeah, literally. And so if you're just working out and you just randomly like just randomly doing things, it's not gonna work for you. There are principles to working out. Like we would say, cardio is for your heart, strength for your muscles, and then stretching for your joints. And so when you work out, you have to be intentional about what to do. Like, okay, what do I want to do first? Because a lot of people, when they think about working out, it's like, okay, let's do cardio because that's how I lose weight the best. But you got to find the cardio that you like to do. Like for me, if you put me on treadmill, I would quit. I don't care who you are. I'm not walking on a treadmill. Like, I don't care. I'm not running on a treadmill. So then you got to figure out, oh, maybe that's not my thing, and so I need to move on to like some, elliptical art trainer, some rowing machine. So that's the point of, like lovely of having a gym. And that's how I grew up with, is like you try different stuff out. You don't stop at this. And one of the thing I do with my clients is actually we test out our, exercise plan at the beginning, like once a week, to see like if they like it. You have to like the stuff that you're doing so that you can keep going with it. And obviously, if you have a train that they will show you, like, okay, you've been walking around the neighborhood, even then, there are precautions of walking, because the ground on a neighborhood, even on, they're not completely flat. They're a
Mm,
bit slanted. And so if you don't walk the right way, you don't know which way to walk back and forth, you're going to have problem with your feet, your legs later on, because you're not walking on completely straight path, right?
mm,
That's the modern problem. And then we have about stuff about the shoes. So personally, I have problem if we were barefoot, I wouldn't have
yeah.
this problem. But because we're not, so I have been just working on my feet, like my arc by itself. Like it's not part of any exercise routine. I just have to do it throughout the day to like keep it up, so that my knee and my ankles wouldn't hurt. And so we have a lot of problem that comes with just living in the modern world. But then you have to figure out, okay, when you're first starting out with exercise, choose something that you like. Don't be afraid to like jump on from things to things. And that's why the gyms are good. But if you're at home, you can try out with just walking indoors or walking outside or running up the down the stairs. Like try different
Yeah.
things out, because if you don't, you're gonna start hating it, and then that feel bad too.
Yeah, and I think that's quite an important point, because when I think about some of those exercises that I didn't enjoy, those were the ones that were really stressful, because I was like, well, I should be doing this because they tell me that I need to be doing this to be able to lose this. And none of those things were working because I was probably hating it so much. And it felt
Right,
so stressful. Like even preparing yourself to go do them felt really hard and
right.
stressful. And actually, for me, I lost over 23 kilos, and it was
Mhm.
all through walking. Like
Right.
walking for me was the best thing, because I love walking, and also I would
Mhm.
go with somebody, so I would be enjoying myself while I was doing it. And so we would go for 2 hour walks and also have a conversation and connect and do all that kind of stuff. And that just worked because I literally walked off the weight, because
See,
I was
you
happy,
don't,
I was calm,
you
I was
love it.
relaxed.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the point. So, you can do strenuous workout. Like for me, I do a lot of strength training, like a lot of weights,
but I think
weight
if you enjoy
training.
it,
Right, I love it. So it's not bad for me or my body. It's just you gotta go. Obviously, there's some certain things that women have to be careful of, but it's so small. Like it's this small. You can literally do whatever men do, but maybe less. But the difference is so small. The point is you have to enjoy what you're doing. Listen to your body. That's the best thing. Like when I work with people, listen to your body. You shouldn't be feeling pain when you work out. You might feel sore for a
hmm,
couple of days, but not pain. When there's pain, you gotta stop.
Yeah, I think that just going back to my previous point when I said, for women's bodies it's stressful, I meant sort of like if you're going from zero and you're going
Oh yeah.
straight into something which you just feel
Oh,
like,
that's
oh my God, this is like shock for my body because I'm being told to do like 50 star jumps and then 50
I
push-ups and then
know.
run. And you're just like, oh my
That's
God, my
for
body is going.
everyone. Yeah, that's for
Yeah,
everyone. And that's the point with these random, internet workout. Is like they push you so far that
yeah.
you can't do it, and then you feel like a failure.
Yeah, it's true. And also, even like there were workouts I was doing before I was a mum when I was in, much better sort of like health condition. And I enjoyed it then because I felt strong enough and I was able to do it and I had the energy and that worked for me. But then after I had my kids, I was struggling with some other health issues. And so
Right.
I wasn't as strong as I was and I couldn't do some of those exercises in that routine. So I actually didn't enjoy that routine anymore because there were bits that were they were actually pain, like
Hmm.
properly painful. I would have to stop for those particular exercises in the routine because I just could not do them. And then actually that made me feel really bad about myself. Like I can't even get halfway through something. I used to do this every single day and I used to do the advanced
Right.
version and I couldn't even do the simple version because my body was different and I was struggling and I wasn't as
Hmm.
strong. So I then had to go back to basics and think about how do I just build up the strength in my body? Like
Right.
not focus on losing weight, not focus on I have to get to this by this thing or I have to,
Hmm.
finish this thing because they've told me. But how do I just get my body feeling stronger? Like what small things can I do to just make myself
Right.
feel strong and ready? And then I can
Right.
go into whatever I want to go into. So do you have any tips around things that women especially can do to just help us feel stronger in ourselves so that we're not hating some of these workouts that we might want to do, but we just don't feel we're ready to do yet?
A lot of the workouts is focusing on men. So like, doing bicep curls, doing pull up, doing just all that stuff. But women's we are much more stronger with our lower body because we have to bear children.
Yeah.
You can do a lot more squat. You can do a lot of, just lower body workout. You're gonna feel better than a guy. So if you focus on your lower body, you're gonna see much faster results than a guy.
Hmm. And in terms of then like fitness routines, like what's the best way to find, because like you mentioned online there are so many that you can choose from, there's so many that you can dip your toe in and you may then have to pay more, like you say, to go and learn more from somebody if it's not working exactly right or you want to make some more changes. What's the best way to find what works for you without having to spend lots and lots of money? Because I guess that is one of the things that women do fall into the trap of. It's like, oh, this one sounds great, maybe this will work for me. This one sounds really great, maybe this will work for me. And I guess we get into this mindset of, oh, that didn't work last time, and then you get disappointed. And every
Mm,
time that happens, I feel like it knocks your confidence even more, and
mm.
it's actually working against you rather than for you. So what are some of the ways that women can try and figure out what works best for their body without having to spend lots and lots of money?
So I would say try it out small. Literally, like on the first month, like you said you like walking, but obviously you didn't arrive there immediately. And
Yeah.
so
I thought it was
you
too simple.
saw,
I just thought it was too simple. I was like,
right,
walking. Like, I'm not going to lose weight walking. But it is the thing that worked in the end because I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to give it I'm just going to give it a
yeah.
try. Yeah.
And so that's something that you need to understand is that we all gonna have to go through, that questioning time of, okay, what kind of exerciser am I? That's some of the thing that we have going on. And so you have so then you need just go back to the basics. Like whoever making stuff like so complicated, you'd be like, okay, let's push it to next year. I would say don't do it now.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. If you're beginners, just start out. Like literally I would tell my clients at the beginning is like just walk around the house every hour. I don't care, but every hour you just have to stand up and walk around, like interrupt your days like that. And then you can go to like do smaller workout. You're not trying to, at the beginning, you're not trying to lose weight.
Okay.
Um, lose weight. No, you're not trying to do that. You're trying to figure out what you want to do. So that's your first step. Trying to
Yeah.
figure out what you want to do. So you do smaller workout, like say 5 minute workout, whatever you like to do, 5 minutes. Okay, this 5 minute doesn't work out right. Great, let's do something else for 5 minutes. And so when you have this, like you're not doing everything at once. Like, oh wow, I have a workout to lose weight. You'd be like, okay, what do I want to work out? So that's the first step. So then you can feel free to experiment on different things, and then you can truly be honest with yourself and be like, this this worked right for me, this is not right for me. Then you can evaluate everything that you've done, and from there you can figure out, okay, maybe I need to invest on this direction a little bit more, even if everybody else saying this random stuff, but let me try this a little bit more. So instead of 5 minutes, now I go to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then if I still feel good about it, I'll go to 30 minutes. But if I don't, then I'll go back to the 5 minutes and figure out something else, and
Yeah.
that's what I do. Like, you just have to break down the step. And then once you figure out, okay, this is the things I can do for 30 minutes at least, then you can start thinking about exercise to lose weight. But then the
Yeah.
beginning, just try to work with your diet first when trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I
Like,
think you're
work
right.
with your diet.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because I think you see an exercise routine, or someone's, I'm doing a 20-day challenge on this, or I'm doing a 30-day challenge on this, and you think I need to go all in like straight away, and so you do day one and you're like, oh, it was okay, because first day you don't you never really know, right? And then your
Mhm.
second day and you're like, okay, I'm not really enjoying this as much as I thought I was going to enjoy this, and then you get to day 5 and you're like, I really want to give up, like I'm really not enjoying this thing
Right.
anymore, and then you're finding excuses, and oh, but I've got a really busy weekend, like I might just not be able to do it tomorrow, and then you're finding ways to come off, and then you're disappointed because you haven't
Mhm.
stuck to it and you haven't lost anything, or you haven't done well, or
Yeah.
even worse, you've endured it for 30 days but you hated it all the way
Right.
through, and so it didn't work for you, because
No.
every time you were in that workout, or every time you were there, you were in a really negative mindset, and so your body was thinking, we're in some kind of stress here, we're in some
Right.
kind of like trouble zone, so it's not going to work for you. And so I think the point you make is really important. If you do something and you don't like it, stop. Like, you have
Right.
permission not to carry on, and go find something else that you do like to do, because unless you
Mhm.
like it, it is going to be stressful on your body, because your mind matters as much as what you might just be like, I need to push through this because I know it's painful, I know I hate it, but I have to push through because I'm
Mhm.
not going to see the result if I don't make myself. But actually, even that attitude of making yourself do
Mhm.
something you don't want to do is stressful for your mind and your body, and you're releasing all
Right.
this cortisol, and your body's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, hold on to all that fat, because there's cortisol running through
Right.
our body and we're in danger, and
Mhm.
we don't know how long this danger is going to last. And if you're doing 30 days of being in danger, your body's like, I'm going
Right.
to hold on to more fat. Everything you eat is going to be like held on, and your body's not going to release it.
Mhm.
So I think that would be probably the most
Yeah.
important learning to
That's
take
my
from
biggest
this.
pet peeves too with the fitness industry. It's like all these
Yeah.
random ass challenges. Like, if you go on my page, you would never see them.
Yeah, so I think it really does matter as to, like, do you enjoy it? Like, some people do love push-ups. It makes them feel strong. It makes them feel good, and so it
Mhm.
works for them because it makes them feel good, and they're also releasing all
Mhm.
the all the endorphins, and everything's
All the
happening at the
your
same time,
stress cortisol,
and
like all let this go out.
exactly, it's all going, and then
Yeah.
you have me doing a push-up, and I'm like, stress, 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 and I'm not releasing any of that cortisol, because I'm just like, oh my god, this is so stressful, and so I'm actually holding
Mhm.
on and generating more of it, because I'm not actually enjoying what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So I do think
Mhm.
that's a really important point for people to really understand when it comes to exercise. And the other point you made was really good as well, about don't do something, or don't start off doing something with the aim of losing weight. You're most likely always going to be disappointed if that's going to be your goal. Do it with the aim of feeling good. Do it with the aim of feeling strong. Do it with the aim of wanting to be healthier. Because I
Mhm.
think intermittent fasting is another thing that's been in my journey of helping me get back to weight. And when you first
Mhm.
start stuff like that, you put on weight and you look at the scales and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, I'm not eating and my body's putting on weight. And like, what's the point of putting myself through all of this if my body's just going to put on more weight? But like you mentioned about the thing of, there were women hunters and stuff, but it takes some time for the body to adapt to that new state. So while it's adapting, you need to let it do its thing and not worry about the scales and not worry about the weight and not expect to fit
Mhm.
into that smaller dress or whatever it might
Mhm.
be.
Yeah.
You need to give your body time to adapt, and when it becomes adapted, and it can take between, I don't know, depends what you're doing, but at least 4 to 6 weeks, you need to at least give yourself a month before you start judging whether
Yeah.
something's working for you or not. Would you agree with that amount of time, or would you
Yeah,
advise longer?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. At least a month. We can kind of tell, but obviously, if you want like to go research or whatever, like usually it'll be 3 months. But then nobody have
Okay.
time for that. Like
Yeah.
you don't have time for that, and you usually know because when you do, when people trying to do research or whatever, it's on an overall population, but for you. You do by yourself, like as long as you're being completely honest with yourself and not trying to like, oh, I should be having this. Like, they tell me I should have that. then yeah, you should go ahead and do 1 month to like 2 months. What like those usually would show, but you have to keep it up because it's so hard to be
Yes,
like
exactly.
accountable.
Just straight away, just like 3 days into it, oh my god, I'm putting on weight and it's not working for me. And it's like, no, you need to give this time because your body needs to adapt to it. And then if you've
Mhm,
given it a month or two, like, as long as you're enjoying it, right, continue with it as
mhm,
long as you're enjoying it. And I was really enjoying the fasting. I was feeling like I felt more energetic, I felt really good on it, but I was like, I saw the weight going, the scale was going up, but I was feeling good. And
uh-huh,
so I was in this group and they were like, you just need to if you're feeling good, carry on. If you don't feel
mhm,
good, if you're feeling lethargic, if you're feeling really sick, if you're feeling like, you're going to fall over because you're dizzy from not eating, then don't carry on. But if you're
mhm.
feeling good and you're feeling energetic, then you just need to allow it time. And actually, I didn't have to wait too long because 4 or 5 days later, suddenly the scales went down by like 3.5 kilograms. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, whoa. So it just came off. But it's just that your body needed enough time to know that this was safe. This change that you're making is safe for your body. And then it's
Mhm,
like, oh, so I can actually release this stuff. Like, I don't need to hold on to it anymore. And then one
mhm.
day, like, you would just see it release. I mean, I could feel it in my body. I felt my clothes were looser. I could feel more energetic. I felt everything. My skin was much better, but I was just
Okay.
worried, like, oh, the scales going the wrong direction. What do I
Yeah.
do? And I think, yeah, I think that's a
Mhm.
really important lesson to know, that while your body's adapting, don't look at the scales and don't judge
Yeah.
your weight. Do it for feeling better, do it for feeling
Right.
stronger, do it for feeling healthy. And that should be your goal.
Mhm.
When your goal is feeling healthy or being healthy, like, weight loss is almost like a side effect. But when your
Right.
focus is weight loss, if you're losing that weight, especially if you're doing it in really unhealthy ways, it's not
Mhm.
necessarily going to make you healthy. So it's like the other way around. It's like I was chasing
Yeah.
weight loss for so long. I was focused on weight loss for so long, and I wasn't feeling good because I was trying all these things that were not making me feel good. And then I focused on health because I need to get my health back on track. I don't care about the weight anymore. I really care about my health, and weight just
Mhm.
comes off because you're so focused on being
Yeah.
healthy and feeling good. Um,
Yeah.
so, in terms of like a parting sort of comment for our listeners, what would be your top three sort of actions you think that people could take, like women can take today, to help
Mhm.
them start to make steps and progress towards finding their best sort of fitness, their levels of fitness?
So yeah, I mean, we sort of, allude to this. So my three steps are pretty simple. So the first one would be honest with yourself. Like, figuring out like why you're trying to lose weight. Is it because of your body, your health, like whatever it is, be honest with yourself and then start small. So step number two, just start small. And doing little things, like not trying, you're not trying to put a result with your workout yet, because you
Yeah.
start so small. That's not nothing. Like you making so small of a progress. Like there's barely you can see. So you have to start small and just listen to your body. Okay, do I like it? Do I not? And then just go from there. And then as you progress up, it's more about preserving yourself, not trying to push yourself past the limit.
I think it's really important for people to know that they need to be really gentle with themselves. Like you say, like really
Mhm,
start slow and build up, and don't just expect
mhm,
you're going to go from, right, I need to do something about my weight, to like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. Like, it can't be like that. That is just too much stress on your body, and you need to take
mhm,
it slow. Like, start with 1 day a week to start with, then build it
mhm,
up to 2 days a week, and then increase the time slightly, and then
mhm,
build up to 3 days if you want to. And like you said, like, I've been in the same situation. I started off with walking, fell in love with that, really enjoyed it. And then my body was like, more. You need to do something more. So then I started putting on like a really heavy backpack when I went walking to just increase the weight that I was
oh,
carrying as I was doing it. And then, your
wow.
body says again, like, more. So then I started getting some weights and I started doing some weight training at home, because I was like, yeah, my body's ready now, because it's building strength and it's slow and I'm enjoying it. And I'm only doing it when my body feels ready and I feel safe to introduce those things. If I had gone, and I've tried before, from doing nothing to just going straight to weight, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pick up my weights and I'm gonna start doing all these like weights and stuff, and my body was just like screaming at me, because it was like, no, what are you doing, why are you carrying all these things that you've never done before? So I think it's really important that people are just so gentle. I think that's a really beautiful message to leave our audience with today. So thank you so much, Fang. It's been amazing to have you on the show. And that freebie you mentioned, we'll link it under this episode so that the audience can come and check out, the steps that you take them through, and sort of deal with it on a mindset level as well as a physical level as well. Is there any like last bits of wisdom or a quote or anything you'd like to share with the audience before we say bye today?
So yeah, I mean, if y'all like it, interested in what I'm doing, obviously, check either my IG out is at Be Active is Easy. It is not grammatically correct, and I know that and then I do have a website, as if you can see, beactiveiseasy.com. So that's more about my blog, and then I would go into much more finer details than my Instagram accounts. Instagram is just fun stuff. If you want to laugh, I do a bunch of random laugh stuff that you can just look at me being crazy about there. But if you want more information, go visit my website.
Lovely. Thank you so much again for having you today. And I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to this and taken something away that can help you, that can motivate you. And, I just want to leave you with the final thought of think about what's that one very small thing, just 5 minutes, even 2 minutes, whatever you want, whatever feels good to you. What's that one thing you can do just to move and make yourself feel a little bit better? It doesn't need to be strenuous at all. Let us know in the comments if you would like to share anything about today's episode. And otherwise, I'll see you on another episode of Back to Health very soon. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you would like any of the links or the show notes, you can follow them in the description below. And for more episodes of the Back to Health podcast, please be sure to follow us on YouTube, or you can follow us on Spreaker, where we host our podcast. Thanks again, and I look forward to joining you for another episode of the Back to Health podcast. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay informed.